Pull up a log and picture this. We're huddled around a campfire, perched on a cliff's edge, the sea raging below, lightning flashing, and a storm rolling in. Out in the darkness, a single lighthouse beam cuts through the chaos, a beacon for sailors, but a prison for its keepers. Tonight, I'll share true stories of isolation and terror from real lighthouses, where the light meant to guide you home sometimes became the source of your worst nightmares. We'll begin with the mystery of Eileen Moore, where 3 men vanished without a trace, leaving behind an untouched meal and a chilling legend. So lean in, listen close, and prepare to journey into the heart of lighthouse horror. This is just the beginning. Let's step into the darkness. Tonight, we delve into the annals of maritime mysteries, where fact blurs with speculation and the sea whispers secrets it refuses to relinquish. Our first tale takes us to Eileen Moore, a place shrouded in mist and legend. A remote Scottish rock, a lonely sentinel standing guard against the relentless onslaught of the North Atlantic. This is not just any island. It's a place where the veil between worlds seems thin, where the ordinary gives way to the extraordinary. The story unfolds in 1900, a time when lighthouses were beacons of hope and their keepers, unsung heroes. On Eileen Moore, 3 experienced keepers, men of the sea hardened by the elements. First, Thomas Marshall, a seasoned veteran known for his calm demeanor and unwavering dedication. Then James Duckett, the principal keeper, a meticulous man responsible for the smooth operation of the lighthouse. And finally, Donald MacArthur, the assistant keeper, a man of few words, but known for his strength and reliability. These 3 souls were stationed there, isolated from the world, tending the vital lighthouse that guided ships safely through treacherous waters. Their duty was paramount, their commitment absolute. For weeks, life on Eileen Moore followed a predictable rhythm. All was routine, the lamp shone brightly, and the keepers diligently performed their duties, unaware of the unsettling events that lay ahead. Then, on December 15th, a chilling anomaly occurred. A passing ship, the Arctur, noticed with growing alarm that the light was extinguished. A serious breach of maritime protocol, a beacon of safety inexplicably silenced. This was more than just a malfunction. It was an ominous sign. The unforgiving North Atlantic, whipped into a frenzy by relentless storms, delayed any rescue or investigation. The island remained isolated, its secrets locked away by the tempestuous seas. Days later, when the relief vessel, the Hesperus, finally managed to brave the storm and approach the desolate island, an unsettling silence hung in the air. The island was eerily silent, devoid of any sign of activity. No flag waved a welcome, no greeting echoed across the waves, no sign of life stirred on the lonely rock. It was as if the island itself was holding its breath, guarding a dark secret. Joseph Moore, the relief keeper, a man familiar with the solitude of lighthouse life, was the first to land, his heart pounding with a growing sense of dread. He cautiously approached the lighthouse, finding the heavy oak door unlocked, a stark departure from the strict protocols that governed lighthouse operations. Inside, a scene of unsettling domesticity greeted him. The hearth was cold, the fire long extinguished, and a meal lay untouched on the table as if abandoned mid-bite. Adding to the disquiet, a chair lay overturned, as if someone had been suddenly startled or had risen in haste. A single set of oilskins hung on its hook, a silent testament to the storm outside. 2 sets of oilskins were missing. MacArthur's remained behind, untouched. This suggested he'd ventured out into the teeth of the storm unprotected, an unthinkable act for a veteran keeper, a man who knew the sea's capricious nature all too well. The beds were unmade, as if hastily abandoned, and the clock on the wall had stopped, its hands frozen at an unknown hour, marking a moment lost in time. But it was the logbook that truly sent shivers down the spine. Its final entries grew increasingly bizarre, filled with unsettling observations and frantic pronouncements. The entries spoke of storms described as unprecedented in their ferocity, of the men praying for deliverance, and most disturbingly, of MacArthur weeping, a hardened man reduced to tears. The last entry, penned with a shaky hand, read, "Storm ended, sea calm, God is over all." A chillingly ambiguous statement, filled with both relief and a lingering sense of unease. Then silence. Nothing more was ever recorded. The logbook, like the lighthouse itself, fell silent, its secrets locked within its pages. A thorough search of the island yielded no bodies, no signs of a struggle, no clues to explain the keeper's disappearance. The only thing left was an unsettling emptiness. However, the search did reveal evidence of a massive wave, a rogue surge of water that had crashed against the island with unimaginable force. Twisted iron railings bore witness to the wave's power. Smashed crates lay scattered across the rocks, and a massive boulder had been moved from its resting place by the sheer force of the sea. The official theory, the one that attempted to bring closure to this baffling mystery, suggested that two men had been swept away by the rogue wave, and the third had rushed out to help, only to meet the same fate. But nagging questions remained. Why risk venturing out after the storm had passed and the seas had calmed? Why leave a meal uneaten, abandoning all sense of routine? These were not reckless novices. The men were seasoned keepers, experienced mariners unlikely to make such elementary mistakes. Their actions defied logic and experience. The logbook's entries, filled with fear and foreboding, coupled with the untouched scene inside the lighthouse, suggested something far stranger than a simple accident. To this day, the three keepers of Eileen Moore remain missing, their fate a haunting enigma that continues to defy explanation. They vanished without a trace, leaving behind only questions and speculation. Their disappearance remains a perfect, chilling mystery, a maritime ghost story that whispers on the wind, a puzzle with no solution. It is a tale that still haunts the lonely lighthouse of Eileen Moore and all those who dare to hear its unsettling story. A reminder that some mysteries are destined to remain unsolved, lost to the depths of the sea and the passage of time. Next, we travel to the Smalls, a remote and treacherous location. Imagine a place so isolated, so exposed to the elements that it tests the very limits of human endurance. A desolate Welsh outcrop battered by relentless waves in 1801, a time when maritime travel was fraught with peril, and lighthouses were beacons of hope in a vast, unforgiving ocean. Here, two keepers, Howell and Griffith, were trapped in a precarious wooden hut perched atop the jagged rocks. Their duty was to maintain the light, a vital task for guiding ships safely through the treacherous waters. The men harbored a deep-seated dislike for each other, their personalities clashing in the confined space, but the crushing isolation of their post forced them together, creating a tense and volatile atmosphere within the small wooden structure. Every word, every glance, was amplified by the sheer remoteness of their situation. Then, disaster struck. Griffith suffered a terrible accident, falling within the cramped confines of the lighthouse, and was gravely injured. The already strained relationship between the two men was about to be tested in the most extreme way imaginable. Howell, despite his animosity towards Griffith, tended to him, doing what he could with limited supplies and knowledge. He was now solely responsible for the well-being of a man he barely tolerated, in a situation spiraling out of control. But ferocious storms descended upon the Smalls, cutting them off completely from any hope of immediate rescue. The waves crashed against the lighthouse with unrelenting force, and the wind howled like a banshee, trapping the two men in their isolated prison. Griffith succumbed to his injuries and died, leaving Howell utterly alone. Howell was now alone with the decaying corpse of a man he despised, trapped in a tiny wooden structure amidst a raging storm. The psychological impact of this situation is almost impossible to fathom. Fearing accusations of murder, knowing that his already difficult relationship with Griffith would cast suspicion upon him, Howell desperately tried to find a solution. He built a makeshift coffin from spare planks he could find within the lighthouse, a crude attempt to deal with the grim reality of his situation. In a desperate attempt to preserve the body and perhaps alleviate his own growing terror, Howell lashed the makeshift coffin to the exterior railing of the lighthouse, hoping to keep it safe from the elements and the prying eyes of the sea. But the relentless storm continued to batter the fragile hut, testing its limits and Howell's sanity. Inevitably, a plank broke loose from the coffin under the relentless assault of the waves, exposing Griffith's arm to the elements, a macabre sight in the midst of the storm. The arm, now free from its wooden prison, waved eerily in the wind, beckoning, taunting Howell through the window, a constant reminder of his grim predicament and the death that surrounded him. Days blurred into weeks, each one a torment of isolation and fear. The storm raged on, seemingly without end, mirroring the turmoil within Howell's mind. The grotesque motion of the exposed arm, swaying back and forth in the wind, combined with the crushing isolation, relentlessly eroded Howell's sanity, driving him to the very brink of madness. The line between reality and hallucination began to blur. He began talking to the corpse as if it were still alive, engaging in one-sided conversations filled with guilt, fear, and desperation. He was hallucinating, haunted by visions and unable to find any respite in sleep. The darkness held terrors that preyed on his already fragile mind. When rescue finally arrived after what seemed like an eternity, they found Howell a broken man, his mind shattered by the ordeal he had endured. He was a shadow of his former self, forever scarred by the horrors he had witnessed. The makeshift coffin remained lashed outside, a grim testament to the tragedy that had unfolded within the isolated lighthouse. The keeper inside was shattered beyond repair by the combined forces of terror, isolation, and the constant presence of death. His ordeal had a profound impact, changing lighthouse policy forever. From that day forward, it was mandated that 3 men would be stationed at all remote lighthouses, providing a crucial buffer against the psychological pressures of isolation. Never again would just 2 men be left to face the darkness alone. The Smalls tragedy became a chilling legend, a stark reminder of the fragility of the human mind when confronted with extreme isolation and the horrors of the sea. It served as a warning of the psychological dangers lurking in the lonely watch, a testament to the importance of human connection in the face of overwhelming solitude. Our last story takes us to the rugged shores of Seguin Island, Maine, a place steeped in maritime history and shrouded in an enduring sense of mystery. For centuries, this remote island has stood as a sentinel against the unforgiving Atlantic, its lighthouse, a beacon guiding ships through treacherous waters. But beyond its practical purpose, Seguin Island holds a darker, more spectral tale. It is home to a lighthouse with a haunting legacy, a place where the echoes of the past resonate with chilling clarity. The story whispers of love, loss, and the crushing weight of isolation, a narrative woven into the very fabric of the island. In the 1800s, a keeper's wife, isolated and lonely, found herself confined to the remote island with only the crashing waves and the endless horizon for company. The solitude was a heavy burden, a constant companion that gnawed at her spirit. In an attempt to alleviate her despair, her husband, the lighthouse keeper, arranged for a piano to be delivered to the island, hoping to lift her spirits and fill the silence with music. It was meant to be a source of joy, a connection to the world she had left behind. But, tragically, she had only one piece of sheet music, a single melody, a solitary tune in a vast ocean of silence. With nothing else to play, she played the same song endlessly, day after day, week after week. The notes became a constant drone, a relentless cycle that mirrored her own monotonous existence, the melody echoing through the house until it became maddening, a haunting refrain that permeated every corner of their isolated dwelling. The once comforting sound transformed into a torturous reminder of their confinement. The repetition drove a wedge between husband and wife, their relationship strained by the oppressive atmosphere and the incessant music. What was intended as a gift became a source of conflict, a symbol of their growing despair. In one version of the tale, the keeper, pushed to the edge of sanity by the relentless melody, destroyed the piano in a fit of rage, hoping to silence the music that had consumed their lives. But the silence offered no solace, and then, consumed by guilt and despair, he killed his wife and himself, leaving behind only the echoes of their tragic existence. In another, equally heartbreaking version, the wife, broken by isolation and monotony, succumbed to the darkness and took her own life, unable to bear the weight of her solitude any longer. Her grief-stricken husband, unable to live without her and haunted by the tragedy, followed her into the abyss, leaving the lighthouse to stand as a silent testament to their despair. Since then, visitors and keepers alike have reported hearing ghostly piano music drifting through the halls of the lighthouse, a faint and melancholic melody that seems to emanate from the very walls, and sightings of a sorrowful woman gazing longingly toward the mainland, her spectral figure a constant reminder of the island's tragic past. Furniture moves inexplicably, doors slam shut with unseen force, and unexplained whispers echo through the empty rooms, adding to the island's eerie atmosphere. And some have even claimed to have seen the apparition of the keeper's wife, forever trapped on the island, her spectral form a chilling reminder of the devastating power of loneliness and isolation. Even today, guests who dare to spend the night on Seguin Island claim to hear the phantom melody, a haunting tune that carries on the wind, a constant reminder of the tragedy that unfolded within those walls. Seguin Island stands as a stark reminder of the psychological toll of isolation the fragility of the human spirit, and the enduring power of the past. It is a place where the veil between worlds seems thin, and the spirits of those who suffered continue to linger, forever bound to the island where tragedy struck. The fire's embers glow as the storm fades, but the chill of these stories remains. Lighthouses, built to banish darkness, became stages for true horror, where isolation, not monsters, claimed the mind. If you've enjoyed this journey into the shadows, like and subscribe to keep the fire burning. As you turn in tonight, remember the lonely keepers and the secrets the sea still holds. For every mystery we know, countless others are lost to the waves. Sleep well. And if you hear strange tapping at your window, maybe don't look. Good night.